Welcome back to the channel, crypto enthusiasts and legal eagles. Today, we're diving deep into a saga that has captivated the digital asset world for years, the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, and the pivotal role of Judge Analisa Torres. For months, we've seen headlines, speculation, and a roller coaster of emotions for XRP holders. But recent developments have brought a new layer of complexity and perhaps a clearer path forward. Many of you have been asking, what exactly is happening with Judge Torres and her rulings? Has she stepped back from the case? And what does it all mean for the future of XRP and the broader crypto market? To truly understand the recent twists, we need a quick recap. The SEC first sued Ripple in December 2020, alleging that its token, XRP, was an unregistered security. This kicked off a legal battle that has been closely watched by the entire crypto industry, as its outcome could set a significant precedent for how other digital assets are regulated in the United States. The core of the SEC's argument was that Ripple's sales of XRP constituted an investment contract and therefore fell under the purview of securities law. Fast forward to July 2023, and we saw a landmark decision from U.S. District Judge Analisa Torres. In a ruling that sent shockwaves through the crypto market, Judge Torres declared that XRP, when sold to institutional investors, did indeed qualify as a security. This was a win for the SEC on one front. However, and this is crucial, she also ruled that programmatic sales of XRP to the general public did not constitute a security. This distinction was a significant victory for Ripple and the broader crypto community, as it suggested a more nuanced approach to digital asset regulation than the SEC had previously advocated. This partial victory for Ripple led to a surge in XRP's price and renewed optimism in the market. It seemed like a path to resolution was finally in sight. But as we've learned in the crypto world, nothing is ever truly simple. The story of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit and Judge Torres' involvement was far from over. Now, let's get to the heart of the recent developments that have many wondering about Judge Torres' role. In the past few weeks, Judge Torres has made two significant denials that have reshaped the immediate future of this case. These denials are not a step back from her original ruling, but rather a firm reinforcement of her judicial authority and the legal principles she applied. First, Judge Torres denied a joint request from both Ripple and the SEC to reduce Ripple's previously imposed penalty. To recap, after her initial ruling, Ripple was ordered to pay a $125 million civil penalty. More recently, the SEC, under what some speculate to be a shift in approach, proposed dissolving the injunction and returning $75 million of that penalty to Ripple. This move by the SEC was seen by some as an attempt to settle the case and move on, perhaps even acknowledging the complexities of regulating digital assets. However, Judge Torres was not persuaded. Her reasoning was clear and impactful. She emphasized that the parties involved do not have the authority to simply agree not to be bound by a court's final judgment. A permanent injunction and a civil penalty were deemed necessary to prevent future violations, and the court's judgment, she asserted, belongs to the legal community as a whole, not just to the private litigants. This decision underscores the judiciary's role in upholding the integrity of its rulings, even when both parties might prefer a different outcome. This denial signals that the court views Ripple's past conduct as sufficiently egregious to warrant the full penalty and the continued injunction. It suggests that despite any shifts in the SEC's internal policies or leadership, the legal precedent set by the court's findings remains paramount. It's a powerful statement about the enduring nature of judicial decisions. The second significant denial was closely related. Judge Torres refused to lift the permanent injunction against Ripple. This injunction was put in place to prevent Ripple from engaging in future unregistered securities offerings. The SEC and Ripple had hoped to dissolve this, perhaps as part of a broader settlement. But Judge Torres maintained that nothing had changed regarding the underlying reasons for the injunction. She highlighted that Ripple's conduct was so concerning that the SEC had previously expected them to continue hiding information, and that without the injunction, there was a likelihood Ripple would continue to disregard the law. This refusal to lift the injunction is a critical point. It means that Ripple remains under strict legal obligations regarding its XRP sales, particularly to institutional investors. It's a clear message that the court is not willing to simply overlook past behavior or allow for a premature end to the oversight it deemed necessary. These denials collectively paint a picture of a judge who is meticulously upholding the letter and spirit of her initial ruling, ensuring that the legal consequences for past actions are fully realized. Judge Torres steps aside, the appeals process. So, if Judge Torres is not stepping back from her ruling, what about the recent news that she's stepping aside from the case? This is where the distinction becomes important. Recent reports, confirmed by legal experts like former SEC attorney Mark Fagel, indicate that Judge Torres has no further active role in the Ripple case at the district court level. Her rulings are complete, and the case is now moving into the appeals phase. Think of it this way. Judge Torres has delivered her verdict and imposed the necessary measures. Her work in the trial court is done. The baton has now been passed to the higher courts. The appeals process is where the SEC and Ripple will challenge aspects of her ruling. This is a standard part of the legal system, allowing parties to seek review of a lower court's decision. Both the SEC and Ripple had filed appeals. The SEC was appealing the part of her ruling that stated programmatic sales of XRP were not securities. Ripple, on the other hand, had filed a cross-appeal, likely challenging the institutional sales aspect and the penalty. However, there's a significant new development here. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has indicated that Ripple is dropping its cross-appeal, with the expectation that the SEC will also drop its appeal. This is a monumental shift. If both parties drop their appeals, it means that Judge Torres's ruling, as it stands, would become the final word on the matter. This would bring a definitive end to this long-running legal saga, at least at the federal court level. It would mean that the distinction between institutional and programmatic sales of XRP would be legally solidified, and Ripple would proceed with the $125 million penalty and the permanent injunction in place. Why would they do this? For Ripple, it likely means an end to the legal uncertainty that has plagued the company and its token for years. It allows them to move forward and focus on building their business. For the SEC, while they might have preferred a full victory, dropping the appeal could be a strategic move to avoid a potentially unfavorable ruling from the appeals court, which could have broader implications for their regulatory approach to other cryptocurrencies. It also allows them to claim a partial victory, having established that institutional sales of XRP were indeed unregistered securities. This potential outcome, where both parties walk away from the appeals, would provide a significant degree of regulatory clarity for XRP. It would set a precedent for how other digital assets might be viewed, emphasizing the importance of how a token is sold and distributed, rather than just the nature of the token itself. This is a nuanced but critical distinction that could shape the future of crypto regulation in the US.